He has been Ontario's Minister of Finance for the last 4 years and 3 months and has been waiting all that time to present a balanced budget. He's now finally done it with this, his 5th budget. Let's find out how. Here's Charles Sousa, Ontario's Finance Minister and the MPP for Mississauga South, who joins us now from the Frost Block at Queen's Park. Minister, how's it going tonight?
It's going very well. Thank you, Steve.
As you know, I tell you this every year, it's really not my job to second guess the choices that you've made or criticize or ridicule or anything like that, but I do want to understand why you made the choices you did make. So let's start with the signature program in this year's budget, and that is the OHIP Plus Pharmacare program. Young people 24 years of age and younger only eligible. How come?
Well, we've been advocating for a national Pharmacare program for a number of years, and this is one step forward in trying to do just that. In fact, Ontario's program is the only one and the first of its kind in Canada, providing free medicine, 4,400 medicines to our young people with no copay, no deductible, and it's an opportunity to make sure that they're taken, well care of.
I do note in the United States, Obamacare covered young people on their parents' plans up to age 26. You made the cutoff 24. Any explanation behind that?
Well, many don't have those plans, and it's growing more. And many young people, when they get into a workforce, at times are in a contract basis and they don't have that benefit. So we're making it equal and fully universal for everyone.
No, I get that, but why the cutoff at age 24 as opposed to 26 or 30 or fully universal for that matter?
Well, it's that transition period when people are just getting started, finishing school, getting started into the workplace until they have something more stable. 24 to 25 seems like a round number that establishes when they can get started. So we left it at that. And again, this is just a step forward.
Sure.
It doesn't stop us from looking at other opportunities.
Understood. Some people are going to wonder, though, if you've got $465 million per year to spend on this, why not make it a $200 million program and take that balance, that $265 million, and spend it on something else? Direct this program, for example, which presumably you had the option of doing, of focusing it only on those who really need it the most, as opposed to, say, the kids of somebody, who send their children to Upper Canada College, for example.
Well, I'd argue that what we value here in the province of Ontario, and for that matter as Canadians, is our universal health care, that it applies to everybody equally, regardless of your family income and your way, and this is in keeping with that. At the same time, we want to support every child, regardless of their status. It's about ensuring that our kids are healthy and have the ability to get the care they need when they need it, and a universal program in Pharmacare enables us to do just that.
But as a Liberal, no qualms about giving the offspring of millionaires free drugs?
I'm thinking about the children, and you then have to establish what that cutoff should be. And my concern is ensuring that every child in the province of Ontario is taken care of. This program does just that.
Now, I do remember some 40 years ago when Premier Bill Davis set up the first seniors drug program, and he thought it would be $50 million, and then before long it turned into $1 billion. So I wonder how carefully costed that $465 million is for this program, and whether it has a similar potential to really spiral beyond what you expect.
We've taken those things into consideration. We have done an evaluation as to what it may be. We also note that we have drug plans for seniors 65 and over, and recognizing the demands that exist at a later age, it's more expensive than it is in our younger people. But what we wanted to focus on is also those complex issues, because this is not just essentials drugs. We're talking about the whole suite of the Ontario drug program that's being made available to our young people. So those cancer treatments and those complex issues are provided for, and that's what's causing it to be a bit more expensive than would normally be the case.
And one more question on this before we move on, and that is, of course, the NDP at their convention last weekend unveiled their plan for a universal Pharmacare program covering everybody, admittedly with fewer drugs covered, but every person in the province of Ontario, not just those 24 and under. And, suspicious people are going to wonder whether or not that sort of nudged or propelled you into getting something out the door a week later. What's the answer to that?
Suspicious people should wonder why they came out with their plan as an idea when we had been working on it for months and it was already at the printer, right? We had already established our budget by that point. Keeping also in mind that it starts in January of 2018, not at some obscure date in the future. And it covers all suite of medicine and no copay and no deductible. It's fully universal for our children, and we've been doing and working on this for months and years now.
Okay, let's move on and talk about what I'm sure you think is the other signature achievement of this budget, and that is the fact that for the first time in nearly a decade, it is balanced. I know you're happy about that, but of course others have observed that you got to balance because you sold off a number of government assets and got a number of sort of one-time transfers, for example, from the federal government to make it happen. In which case, is it really a balanced budget?
Well, let's be clear. Ontario has been working towards a balanced budget since I became Finance Minister. We've been deliberate, we've been determined, we've never wavered, we've exceeded our targets year over year, and we're projecting balance for the next 3 years in the foreseeable future because we've increased revenues on an ongoing basis. What you're speaking of are actually minor in comparison to the $140 billion budget that I manage. And all those assets that we repurpose is dollar for dollar reinvested into new assets and into new opportunities. And a good portion of that was used to pay down debt as well.
I know you have said in the budget that you plan to run balanced budgets not just this fiscal year, but the next one, and if you're reelected, the next one after that as well. But I also see in the budget papers that as a percentage of our gross domestic product, in other words, as a percentage of our economy, our net debt to GDP ratio is going down like that much, maybe 0.5% over that period of time. 0.5%. Is that really anything to get very excited about?
Well, our net debt to GDP ratio will be hovering around 38.9%. It's going down at 35% as we proceed forward. And that compares well to other parts of Canada at 54% and other parts of the world at much higher. So it's our ability to afford that debt that matters. And we're locking in some of our borrowings for long periods of time at low interest rates. More importantly, 100% of every cent that we take on a borrowing, on that debt, goes to provide for new capital and new assets. So net debt to GDP is an important ratio that I measure, and as long as it's improving, it enables us to continue to sustain it.
It is improving, you're right about that, but conservatives, of course, would say, if you got to borrow big in bad times, which of course we did in Ontario, but then when times are good, and the budget numbers you have given us suggest times are good, that's when you really got to start to hammer away at that debt in a much more urgent and significant fashion. And they, of course, would say that you haven't done that. What's the response to that?
Well, the first step is to balance the budget, and we're doing that. Then it's a matter of determining what your priorities are. And if you don't want to build that school, and you don't want to build those hospitals, and if you don't want to build infrastructure and transit, that could be their choice. But we feel that's important for the benefit of our future generations to be competitive. And furthermore, it enables us to provide for programs that matter to people, like Pharmacare for our children, and like increasing our supports for hospital funding, which they all say they want. So you have to ask them what it is they would cut as a result of some of the programs that we brought forward.
Let me ask you next about tax policy. Yes, there are no income or corporate income taxes increased in this budget. That is true. I guess there is sort of one tax increase of significance, and that is the non-resident speculation tax in an attempt to cool down the housing market in the greater Golden Horseshoe area. I guess my question is this. If housing speculation is a bad thing, why only go after non-residents? Why not bring in a speculation tax on everybody who buys a house, has no intention of living in it, and then wants to flip it for a tidy profit?
Well, we are actually addressing speculation tax, be it non-resident Canadians or those that live here and take advantage of someone's homes and crowd out people who are actually trying to buy and live in them, especially those that are going into new developments, and then they take those tax loopholes as opposed to paying full income. For example, they're taking exemptions on capital gains. We're now requiring full disclosure on those that are purchasing, and those that speculate need to pay their fair share as well.
I do want to ask you something as it relates to the Trump administration. I'm sure it has not escaped your view that yesterday the President of the United States unveiled his plans to dramatically lower corporate income taxes. And right now, I guess Ontario has about a 12.5% advantage over the border states. You didn't touch corporate taxes in this budget, and I wonder whether you're concerned that you're leaving us vulnerable once their corporate taxes come down to our businesses here being less competitive with their American counterparts.
Well, our corporate income taxes are very competitive. I mean, as you've just mentioned, we're much lower than it is in the United States, and for that matter, other countries throughout Europe. That's a competitive advantage for Ontario.
But not for
long.
long.
We'll continue to keep that advantage. Well, we'll see what takes place, but Ontario's competitive advantage is also its people and our ability to deliver and export our products to other parts of the world. But you've made the point. The United States is playing catch-up now to our tax rate.
But that is the point.
And they're attempting to.
Once they catch up, or once Congress passes what the president hopes they'll pass, we're not going to have that advantage anymore. Do you worry that leaves our businesses here vulnerable?
In fact, that's why we're investing $50 million more to look at some of our export strategy to go beyond just the Americas. But 28 states rely on Canada and on Ontario, I should say, as their greatest trading partner. We'll have interrelations and we'll continue to support our businesses. We have partnerships with them now, and it's one of the reasons we are leading the way. And for that matter, we're the top destinations, one of the top destinations for foreign direct investment, all of the Americas. So the work we're doing to stimulate growth and to attract investment, to compete against other jurisdictions, it's fierce, and Ontario's been winning and will continue to.
Minister, in the little time we have left, I want to ask you a couple of last questions about you. I would have thought that the finance minister who finally got to deliver a balanced budget in the province of Ontario after nearly a decade of deficits would be prepared to go on the record and confirm that, yes, I will be a candidate in the next provincial election in June 2018. And I don't think I've heard you say that yet. Do you want to say that tonight, that you are committed to running in the next provincial election?
It's my intention to run again, and I enjoy the work I do. I feel privileged by the work I do, and I feel a sense of responsibility to continue to do the work. It's important, and I enjoy it.
It's my intention to run is not exactly the same thing as saying, I'm going to run. Is there a difference there?
I have every intention of running, Steve, and I've been working towards doing that. And listen, we have, and it's what we're doing today, and what's happening today is bigger than me. I'm really trying to work for the people of Ontario, and it's at their privilege that I do what I do. It's an important job, and I take it responsibly. I take it seriously.
One last question. You, on a couple of occasions, most dramatically today in the House, as you were delivering the budget speech, choked up when you were talking about the caregiving that your wife has had to do, both for her parents and for your dad. I presume that caught you off guard. What was that about?
Yeah, I didn't anticipate that, I must say. She's an extraordinary individual, and so many like her who are dealing with their aging parents and our wonderful children and managing it well and volunteering with her charity and the work that she does to provide for others. It did catch me off guard, and I'm very proud of her and I admire her.
And we thank you for coming on TVO tonight to answer our questions about this year's budget. Thanks, Minister.
Thank you.
Help TVO create a better world through the power of learning. Visit TVO.org and make a tax-deductible donation today.